Sam Amick. Good morning, Sam.
I don't know about late. I mean, mere seconds. My goodness, you're a
I mean, I
tough
guess
employer today.
isn't everything just a mere seconds? Like you could be here like 3 days late. It's mere
It's
seconds.
late. All right, fair. Fair, fair,
Look!
fair.
Wow! Look at that athletic beanie or where
And
That's why we're
sweatshirts.
late. That's why we're late. I
Wow!
couldn't. I couldn't decide. The hat wasn't working. The hair. We got bedhead.
Kind of looks
So
like
we're going.
with your with your AirPods. It looks like he's kind of got earrings too, a little bit. Like if you
Oh,
just
yeah.
glance at him, he kind of looks like a skater
With the athletic sweatshirt.
with the
too.
athletic sweatshirt. Wow!
Yes, we're a company man today.
Yeah,
Good morning, guys.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Feeling better today. Get back from Vegas yesterday, and
Ugh.
I was happy that I chose to. I missed two really good semifinal games, so that would have been fun. But I swear the Vegas effect after I guess 3 nights or 3 nights, 4 days. Yeah, so feeling better. We're back home and rested, but good time out there.
Do you happen to know, because this will tie into a conversation Jason and I were having the day after the finals, do you happen to know if one or both teams flew out that night, or did any of them stay in Vegas after the game?
Unfortunately, I do not have that insight. I should have asked. I wondered myself, and I don't know exactly what their schedules look like from here. You would think that the Knicks players, especially, would want to enjoy themselves. I mean, that is the bigger debate about where is the NBA Cup going geographically is interesting because the players like going to Vegas.
Yeah.
And I think if it does relocate, which looks to be I don't know if it's a near certainty, but very likely, then you wonder how the next location will land with players. So with that in mind, I would imagine that they wanted to enjoy the city before they left, but I don't know for sure.
Kind of while you were there, Sam, Dave and I talked about this too, that not only it was a chance for the league to get together, the league reporters, you guys, the two teams that were there, or the four at one point, but the commissioner spoke as well. Any major takeaways from you about what Adam Silver shared kind of in his State of the League address?
Well, I mean, the headlines were that he actually put somewhat of a hard timeline on the discussion regarding expansion, where he said that they were going to decide in 2026, which way they were going to go. No commitment to either, but passing mentions of Vegas and Seattle as the long known kind of leading candidates for expansion. A question about kind of a generic question about relocation and kind of the way the league looks at that. And I do think that's worth paying attention to as something that, could become part of the equation down the road. So, that was probably the big headline. The other one, it's funny, in the moment, this was lost on me, but he discussed, the question of soft tissue injuries and players getting hurt this year, right? And he pushed back pretty hard, saying that the data does not support the narrative that it's worse this year. And the context that was lost on me is that there was an athletic component to that discussion. So, and I'll give the quick version, but within the last 7-10 days, our John Hollinger wrote a piece talking about how the schedule with the NBA Cup was compressing games, in his opinion, leading to more injuries. And this was a rare move. The NBA actually kind of clapped back and pushed back on that article on social media and said that it was inaccurate. And so the nuance here is that, the number of injuries appears to be either status quo or down, but the part that gets lost is the actual games missed, especially to star players. So I think there's, a lot of context that Adam left out, but that discussion about, is the schedule too compressed? Are injuries an issue? Pace of the game, making, things more stressful on players, all those things. Those to me come to mind from the presser.
Interesting what he said about expansion, which has been long rumored, Seattle and Las Vegas, that he put a timeline on it. But as far as relocation, I don't remember reading it, Sam. Shame on me. Did he get specific, or do we think he's talking about a Memphis, New Orleans type thing?
He did not get specific,
Okay.
but certainly those are, the two that get talked about the most. I wrote recently about the Memphis situation in passing when I was doing a column on John Morant, and had learned, and to that point hadn't realized that, they don't have a lease agreement in Memphis. I'm forgetting the exact year that it runs out. I want to say 29. And, this is a deal between the Grizzlies and the city that was expected to have gotten done last summer. And there's some fairly strong signs that, the absence of a deal should concern, some folks in Memphis who want NBA basketball to remain. So I think that's worth watching. The New Orleans one is I don't have as much insight there, but it's tricky. As an aside, I saw this comment on an article on our website recently where it was reported that New Orleans had a massive decline in population within the past few years, and somebody had pointed out that some of that was redistricting, and zone mapping, that type of stuff, that the numbers weren't as bad as they thought. But that's the narrative, is that there's just not enough, people and fans out there to support it, and they've been struggling for a long time. But yeah, those are the two you always talk about.
Well, and we say this sometimes, or we'll talk about this. I went to the Pelicans Kings play-in game a couple years ago, and because of that, I'm on this New Orleans season sales ticket list or whatever.
Oh yeah,
and yeah, and $250 for food, drink included, and courtside seats, which is just absolutely unheard of. I was talking to, just to give you, not you, but the folks, an idea on the difference. I was talking to a Kings season ticket holder. Now, this season ticket holder, by the way, they have their seats are very, very good seats. But they were showing me what they got sent about this year and the next 4 years. And it's, I want to say it's $185,000 a ticket.
Wow.
For these seats, just in comparison for apple to apple seats. Do whatever the math is. $250 times
stop
4.
Pretending it's not you, Dave.
Yes, you're right.
Right, Sam.
Jeez, my good. I got a kid in college, dude. Anyways, it's bad in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. But yeah, those were the only headlines. Other than, I thought this was a funny, but within a serious moment. My colleague at the New York Times, Tanya Ganguly, had a somewhat extensive question for Adam about gambling and the perception of the game being rigged from fans, and getting his opinion on, does he take it personally when sometimes, and she kind of, very on the nose had a line about how, and some fans, think that even you, Adam, are behind this. And it just absolutely killed me to see. I wish somebody made a meme out of his face when she said you, because he just looked like he'd been punched in the face.
Wow.
And he handled the question, but that certainly his messaging was that he deeply cares about the integrity of the game, and knows that they need to continue to make sure people believe in it. But those are my Adam highlights.
Well, to be fair to the Kings, 152,000.
I
think I said
fair.
190. So 152,000. Cheaper.
Sam, do you have a read on that expansion versus relocation kind of lane here? Because it seemed like the way it was going is expansion's happening, and then I know it's definitely cooled off. Still could happen, but I get it. Maybe owners are thinking, hey, why 32 teams? But 32 kind of makes some sense for the number of teams and how you could put East and West and all that. Why maybe the shift, do you think that it's at least cooled off on expansion?
Mainly because, not that they can't achieve both things, but they have shifted their focus so heavily to the NBA Europe project that seems to have taken away some of the bandwidth and some of the time spent on expansion. And this, you're talking about starting a league in Europe as soon as 2027, and going global in a way that Adam and a lot of his people have envisioned for years. If they could snap their fingers and make travel easier, they would have NBA teams over there, but that's obviously logistically not really possible. And so in the absence of that, they're trying to kind of almost rehabilitate the European basketball scene, at least from a business standpoint, because what they see is a lot of clubs and a lot of teams that have a good product, but that don't make a lot of money. And they could tap into that. They could have their brand expanded. It's a different version of what they've done in Africa, and with the Basketball Africa League. So that for the last 18 months or so has seemed like that had become a bigger priority than expansion. Within that, you have different storylines. I mean, for one, there's this kind of looming question of LeBron James's, widely known interest in being an owner, and specifically having talked about Vegas as a place that he would like to be tied into. That's an open question, but he's obviously still on the court and playing. And so, does that come to fruition at some point? And then, the Seattle thing, those are the fans that, for me, that you certainly feel the worst for, is that they have just been teased for so long, going back to the Kings relocation situation, which, you guys were lived through, we all lived through, to now just wondering, are they going to get a squad and get NBA basketball back again? But yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Sam Amick joining us. All right, so Monday kicked off, some would say, the trade season. I know it's tough to get your finger completely on it since everything's moving around so fast, but who specifically are the Kings talking to, and what players could be coming back and forth from Sacramento?
Nikola Jokic is going to be a King.
Hey, aggregate that. We actually, Sam, I really do want to start a new segment where we say aggregate that, and we make up something like super benign, but that's true. Like the example I use is when Scott Perry was on the road trip, like saying, like, let's say we found out he had a conversation with Indiana about he really liked their ball boy and thought maybe he'd work well in Sacramento, and then saying something like sources say Scott Perry is in deep conversations with Indiana over a major personnel change. And then just seeing, I really want to find a way to clap back at these aggregators. So if you have any good ideas, let me know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, first of all, that's, I think, too many syllables. Aggregate that. Like, let's just go.
Aggregate
like,
that.
Just ag. Let's just turn
ag
ag
that. Well, then people
ag,
think UC Davis. And,
that's fair.
But
and then it's stingers down, Jason.
Yeah. So other than Jokic, what else are we talking about?
That's a small deal.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the intrigue right out the gate for the Kings. I know there's been some kind of new reporting on Domantas Sabonis's situation and Toronto Raptors possible interest. I have not confirmed that part. So, I don't know. We'll see if anything comes to life there. But the Keon Ellis market and the Keon Ellis discussion, I'm pretty confident saying, like, I don't know the outcome, but it's going to be in the news. He is a very popular player around the league. It's one of the more intriguing situations I've seen in a while, trade-wise, where we've talked about this, where it's like the outside perception appears to be, significantly better than the internal perception or market value. But there's still somewhat of an interest on the Kings' part of if there was an extension down the road to do at a reasonable number. They like Keon, but then the fans, of course, say, well, how can you say you like Keon? You don't always play Keon. And there's just a need for 3-and-D wings around the NBA. And, the early sense is that the Kings would like to get, it would probably be a late first-round pick or something of that nature, or protected. But they would like to get a first if they were going to trade Keon, and they're certainly open to discussing that. And I get the sense, I don't know how many teams have called about it, but I think that's not only interesting in a vacuum with Keon, but then it becomes, this is hypothetical, but a question of, I forget if we've talked about this, like, if you have decided, you've got to find a way to get off at least one of these big contracts, then these are negative value contracts. I'm not going to say players, they're negative value contracts between Sabonis, Levine, and DeRozan. To a lesser degree DeRozan, but maybe still. So you might have to attach draft assets to those trades, and the Kings have zero interest in doing that. So the hypothetical is, can you get a good enough pick in a Keon Ellis deal that you then can sleep at night, turning, pivoting and kind of, putting that into a deal for one of the bigger guys. And in that case, yes, you gave up a pick, but it was a pick that, you didn't go into the trade season having. So we'll see, though.
He says that.
A lot's on the table.
He says that, but less than a year ago, this same toxic contract, Zach LaVine, got traded basically for De'Aaron Fox. So I don't know if I'm buying that because that just happened less than a year ago, Sam.
Have you been drinking this morning?
The pick attached to LaVine is correct. But we heard that before the Fox trade that Chicago was trying to attach picks to LaVine to no avail. I'm sorry.
Are you venting?
This is no.
I am
opening
venting.
a wound. Would you like to talk about my impressions of the NBA Cup championship game and all those wonderful young Spurs players that were on display?
Yeah,
no. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's insane.
Do you think it wasn't
insane.
Mike Brown versus De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes back here?
It was insane. Obviously, I meant to tell Mark Spears of ESPN that I appreciated him. I get exhausted by being the guy who pisses off the Kings and the fan base sometimes. So for Mark to have the De'Aaron Fox interview where he says the grass is greener, I will say when I said hello to De'Aaron at the game as he was passing by, his assertion that he hasn't stopped smiling was definitely true.
Mm-hmm.
He just, happy as can be. But it blows me away that they didn't, find a way or even really show that much interest in getting some of those Spurs players. But let's get back to the issue at hand. LaVine, now you got the injury. That is the rub for those three players is that, you're going to have to convince somebody to take him and maybe sweeten the deal if you're going to do that.
That's got you bummed. I can tell.
It's just the way yes, I need to get it together. Honestly, I do because it's just like if we were on like one of them old school like reality shows where they're like surprise, like or I always refer to this like Sam, you remember Brewster's Millions with Richard Pryor? And
by name, but
okay. So the whole point was his uncle left him $30 million, and the catch was he had to spend all $30 million, and not on like assets. He had to blow $30 million, and I think there were some rules like he couldn't gamble it. He had to spend it and basically blow this $30 million in 30 days, and he would get $300 million. If he didn't, he got nothing. So the whole point of this great movie with Richard Pryor and John Candy is all his friends are so happy for him, and they're watching him do all this crazy stuff, and he can't tell anyone the deal or it's off. And I don't know why I keep thinking of Brewster's Millions because I look at from the Beam Team era, the Beam Team segments till now. And I go, if you didn't know any better, it's like, were they trying to do that? Like you almost couldn't do as badly as they did if you were actually trying. Like if they were told you're going to get 4 number 1 picks, like consecutive number 1 picks in drafts, but you have to completely make like the worst moves ever from the Beam Team era to now, that would actually explain this more than acquiring an untradeable Zach LaVine, who the Bulls couldn't trade because they were. We have a guest on, and I'm venting. I'm sorry, Sam. What you're basically saying is it's going to be a very difficult trade season for the Kings, probably.
That is what I'm saying, and I hear your frustration, man. And I don't know the answer. Like, it's a weird road to go down, but from a PR standpoint for the franchise, because transparency, I do think helps a lot when like the unanswered question is just why, right? Why? Like there were draft assets, and then you looked at it and you said, oh, it was 4 first, and then you go, okay, well, hold on a minute, it wasn't that many, and so, but the question of why was Zach made a priority? We have reported, we have talked about, the driving forces behind that deal and Vivek and whatnot, but the transparency part is like, all right, so Monty McNair and Wes Wilcox are gone. You're not going to hold a press conference to say, all right, let's just put the rat on the table and discuss why we did this. And that's where I'm not even, I don't know. That's where with Vivek, I'm not saying it would go well, but it has been an exceptionally long amount of time since he just sat down and addressed the fan base and discussed some of these things.
We've asked. I'd love it. We.
It probably wouldn't. I'll be honest. I don't know. It might not go well.
I don't think it would. I don't think it would.
Yeah.
To your point, and that's not insulting of a vet. I'm saying, what's he going to be like? Well, it's everything he said would get picked apart, and some rightfully so, and some not. But that's how. It's not like people be like, oh, well, he came out and no, of course things are bad right now. They would get picked apart, but at the same time, you just. You hear these stories about like people trading up and trading up and trading up, and they start out with like a magic bean and they end up with a Ferrari. And it's like the Kings do the opposite, and you're 100% right. None of this is on Scott Perry, but you can tell why the fan base is so damn fatigued. And then, by the way, we're watching the NBA Cup with Mike Brown coaching one side, and then not just the whole Fox and Harrison Barnes thing, but I'm still sitting here going, Did we somehow trade an unprotected 2031 pick swap with the probably defending champion Spurs simply so that they would take Harrison Barnes off our hands, who is now, along with De'Aaron Fox, 40% of their starters at 16 and 8? It seems like it's honestly like we're trapped in some sort of simulation, dude, sometimes.
Yep. Well, and I mean,
I know I'm not giving you a lot, dude. Sorry, I'm venting and.
No, I mean, they got pressured into a deal. I guess I'll just keep I'm following your vibe, but Rich Paul client, De'Aaron Fox, indicates he wants to go to San Antonio, gets traded for Rich Paul client, Zach LaVine. Rich Paul client, Doug Christie gets hired. And that's not completely accurate. Andy Miller is the coach's agent from Clutch Sports, but it is wild how they got played here. If I'm being honest, it's just, that's what happened.
Well, and I guess, in the same sense as we lived all this, but is it crazy to think, Sam, that can't happen again? Maybe even in a beneficial way to the Kings. Same idea of Zach LaVine maybe in a spot going, hey, look, this isn't what I thought it would be either. And it doesn't take 29 teams to want him, but is there one other? And there's reports Milwaukee may be in. I don't know how legit that is, but it could the same thing happen.
If you're going to get any team to do it, Milwaukee is the drunk guy at the party.
Right? And that's what people say. If anybody would do it at Sacramento, well, I mean, it takes another team.
Giannis has been gone for a half an hour, and they're still in the corner. They think they're still talking to him.
It's the other. It's his brothers. Yeah. They're still pouring shots.
I mean, I joked with our Bucks beat writer, Eric Name, and this is not his style, but I was like, you should write a piece that's like the 5 craziest Bucks trades that they might actually do, because they are, and his reporting and what I've certainly heard too, is that, the Bucks are going to continue to try to be additive in order to convince Giannis to stay. So if they think that Zach helps to that end, it's the number being so big is what makes everything hard for them. Excuse me. You're going to give up Bobby Portis and Kyle Kuzma to get LaVine. I mean, basketball wise, you're not improving at that point. So I don't see that happening, but it takes something like that.
When something does happen, though, Sam Amick will be on top of it, as he always is, does wonderful work for The Athletic. Aggregate all this, everybody. We don't care. Put words in our mouth. It's fine.
Except the Jokic part.
Except the Jokic part, please. Sam Amick joins us each and every week. Sam, if we don't talk to you, I don't think we will talk to you before, actually. Have a Merry Christmas, and love to the whole family, my man.
Same to you guys. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Yeah, I know. I want one of them beanies for Christmas. Just saying.
Maybe if you got 3 subscriptions.
See you. One more.
Take care. That's Sam Amick. We'll take a break when we come back.